If you're working with LLMs, there are high chances that you've heard of the term prompt engineering. And prompts are literally everywhere. What is it? A prompt is a way or the format in which you interact with an LLM. So when you ask it a question, you are essentially giving it an input. That input is often called as prompt. However, in general, prompt tailoring and prompt engineering refers to the bunch of techniques that you can apply to get better results from an LLM. And that's what we want to talk about in this video. So, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is all about prompt engineering. I'm going to be sharing about OpenAI's guide, and we'll touch upon 6 different strategies that can help you better results from prompts. Now, prompt engineering is a lot of art and science combined. So it's not a very well established area that can help you write very declarative code or something like that. It's very natural language focused. So all the inputs that you provide to the LLM does go in the form of natural language. And hence prompt engineering is more about evolving set of best practices and a certain techniques, which we'll take a deep dive into. All right, so this guide is focused around OpenAI or from OpenAI. However, it can be applied everywhere. These techniques or these strategies will work everywhere. Do know that prompts are not interoperable or interexchangeable. So if you have a prompt working great with an LLM, you might have to tweak it a little bit to adjust it for another LLM. Like you have a prompt with OpenAI, it might not work the same way with Llama 3. So a little bit of variation is required. Now, the first fundamental idea that they start with is write clear instructions. And we'll look at a lot of examples that how these clear instructions could be. But the first strategy really is write clear instructions. And what it means is that what you are asking it to do, be very, very specific about it. Like, let's say you are asking it to help you understand the code in a certain format. Go on and ask that very specifically. Don't write a lot of English around it. That can confuse the LLM. Sounds very simple, but yes, that's the first strategy. The second one is provide reference text. And reference text really is an idea or a way to interpret that question. It could be an example, and this not only improves the quality of response, but also reduces the chances of hallucinations. For example, if you wanted to perform a certain calculation, you can give it an example or a sample solution to that, and that will help it perform a lot better. The third is split complex tasks into simpler subtasks. Now, this conversation goes forwards to agents, and if you have not watched my previous videos around AI agents, please do watch that. I talk a lot around LLMs, so subscribe as well if you haven't. Join the membership channel if you want to learn more, get more deeper, and I'll be very thankful for that. So split the complex task into smaller set of activities, and this could be multi-step processes. Let's say you wanted to do something like assess a certain data point or assess a piece of text. Based on that, you want to go and ask it to use that assessment or provide a summary, and you want to then take that summary and then feed it into another part of document or another part of problem, and then consolidate it and finally get to a conclusion. So you could have a multi-step process. These kind of conversations go much better with agentic workflows if you have complex tasks or if you have work breakdown, which is complex. However, if you break it down into simpler subtasks, LLMs would be able to work it very well. Give the model time to think. And I think the intent here is to understand and lead into different prompting techniques. Like you have chain of thought, you have algorithm of thought, you have RAG architectures, and all of that we have talked about in our channel before. I think prompting is coming a little late. So give the model a little time to think. If it's not performing well, ask it to double check it. Ask for a chain of thought, and that could really help the model reason well, essentially in terms of arriving at your answer. Now, always remember that large language models have two good capabilities. First, which we almost always see, that they have an insanely large knowledge base about the world and the ecosystem surrounding us, and they have some sort of domain expertise within what we are trying to ask. At the same time, they are incredibly strong reasoning engines. So if you provide it the right way to interpret a question, its likelihood of getting responses come better. And you can use external tools. Now, this is where you get into RAG architectures, which is retrieval augmented generation, and can tell the model about relevant documents. For example, I want to have a chatbot which is for my employees, explaining all the policies and all of the documents. Now, LLMs might not know, right? If I'm using, let's say, ChatGPT has no idea that my organization policies are so and so. So what I'm going to do is I'll just plug along my organization policies, upload it, and prepare a vector around it and do a bunch of fancy stuff. And that's what is called as RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. Now that will enable the LLM to use that information in context to the user's query and augment that when going and asking a question back to the LLM so that the user gets a good response. So these are 6 techniques. So let's say some example. What's a bad example? How do I add numbers in Excel? But a better example is, or a better way to do it is, how do I add up a row of dollar amounts in Excel and I want this to automatically for a whole sheet of rows and blah blah blah. This is a very well defined instructions. Then you can ask the model to take some sort of a persona. For example, you can tell the model to say that, hey, I want you to become like a financial analyst, or I want to become like a business analyst, and you should evaluate on these parameters, and it will be able to take that persona. Delimiters are a great piece. Like if you have something like triple quotation mark, XML tags, they can really help the model understand well. So you might want to dump the entire JSON, but if you have the keys associated with it, it will be very, very helpful. And similarly, you can, go and get into the steps. For example, use the following steps to respond to user input, where the step 1 is user will provide you a text in triple quotes, summarize this, and then translate the summary into a certain language, which is the translation language. Then you have some examples. For example, answer in a consistent style, teach me about patient, and then it goes about giving an explanation and all of that. So there are a bunch of examples that you can look at it here in the system, but at the same time, you can just go to prompt examples and pick something from here. For example, spreadsheet creator. So you are creating a spreadsheet of various kinds of data. However, a good prompt would be create a 2-column CSV of top science fiction movies with the year of release. All right, I'm just going to copy this and paste this into ChatGPT and see how it comes up. Alrighty. So now it's going to give me a table. Now you see the fact that I gave it a 2-column CSV is making it think in terms of tabular data. Now I could probably try changing that, though I'm not sure. Okay, let me just ask it to something like give me a list of top science fiction movies. Now again, I don't know if it's gonna no, so it's not taking the tabular approach. So you see, this is where the difference lies in terms of prompting. I could add in another column. For example, I can take the same one. I can say create a 3-column CSV and keep the 3rd column empty for user reviews / comments. All right. So this is gonna force it to think in a different way, and it will give me most likely 3-column CSV data. So again, it's taking a little while to analyze. The newer model sometimes does this, but it's highly likely that it's going to throw up a 3-column CSV. All right. So yeah, that's essentially how you get started with prompts. Now, another part about prompt engineering, which is very, very critical to understand, is how do you evaluate the results? The evaluation part we'll talk about in the next video. And okay, interestingly, it has just given me a file which I can download. So I'm just going to save it and see what it has done. All right, just opening it in Excel, and we'll just see if the formatting has been good or not. Yeah, you see, so it has given the right column and all of that as I asked, user review comments column. Now, I did not explicitly say that name the column that, but it has understood the intent and it has picked that up. So that's essentially prompting. We'll continue having these discussions in the next video about evaluation. Until then, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do join the membership channels. Bye-bye.